You say you're good at Eve, but what you must figure out is if your liver won't quiver and shrivel when Eve nerds hang out. You walk the city of sin, the fleet is filling up, and yes, before the evening is over, we'll all be stone drunk. We'll all be seeing old friends. We'll all be playing cards, and so, Space Bros, I'll meet you in the bar. Luck be my FC tonight. Luck be my FC tonight. Christ, I've been drinking so much. What was that guy saying? Luck be my FC tonight. Luck help me find my squad before this party moves on. This year's Eve Vegas is the greenest gate you'll jump through. Luck turns all brackets on. And FC never docks up without content. And we can camp, we got all night. And FC doesn't squander a chance to go on a roam. Insure your ships, and let's do it right. So let's keep this conference polite. Standing set blue for tonight. Stick with me, new bro, we've been partying since downtime. Luck be my FC tonight. Luck help me find my squad before this party moves on. This year's Eve Vegas is the greenest gate you'll jump through. Luck turns all brackets on. And FC never docks up without content. And we can camp, we got all night. And FC doesn't squander a chance to go on a roam. Insure your ships, and let's do it right. So let's keep this conference polite. Standing set blue for tonight. Stick with me, new bro, we've been partying since downtime. Luck be my FC. Luck be my FC. Luck be my FC. Thank you. thank you and welcome to Eve Vegas.
We're doing this live, so it's probably going to be really bad.
You probably don't have the sound because you muted yourself for the intro, something like that. Hi, Falahan.
Yeah, I'm not hearing the stream either. Like, no.
Maybe if we try pushing to talk.
Oh, there it goes. I just
There
heard
we go.
myself.
Can you hear? You guys can hear us now? Guys can hear us now? I'm just waiting.
Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can
Can
hear
you hear me now?
A&O is saying you can hear us now. Right, okay. It wouldn't be an additional push talk without some kind of, like, you know, some kind of technical hiccup in some way, shape or form. So I'm going to do this again. Welcome everyone to another edition of Push to Talk. Unfortunately, Eric is ill, so you have me in the guest chair. I'm, you know, trying to just basically, you know, do an Eric and kind of have a technical issue at the start, just so, you know, the rest of the thing is absolutely clean and clear, fine. You have Urandus and you have Falahan here as well. Say hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Paxium. You had one fucking job.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Sometimes we have to question what we're paying him for, and then we realize that we're not actually paying.
Actually, yeah. Hang on, you guys get paid?
I do, because, you know, you guys need a little bit more offset of good looking here, so.
Oh.
Well, you know, I don't get paid. Hang on. How do you get paid and I don't get paid? That's just ridiculous.
I don't know. I
joke.
think it just has to do with you get paid more for if you look better, and I just look infinitely times better than all of you. And going into this persona is making me think of American Psycho, movie, which was playing on Sci-Fi earlier, and I love that movie.
Actually, I need to watch that film. That is pretty fucking amazing film. I mean, I always hear people like talking about that particular film. It's like I definitely need to watch that. But what's been going on this past week? Like, what the fuck?
So no one got confused and said war in itself.
It does sound like an episode of Unfortunate Friendly Fire, which yeah.
It hurt itself in its confusion.
It's been hilarious to watch. It's been absolutely fucking hilarious to watch. And I imagine it's probably going to be, there's going to be similar amounts of hilarity being, being told all around on the Fireside Chat later on this tonight. But yeah, I wanted to play that intro song from RMT Records, mainly because it's fucking awesome. It's literally an awesome cover, and obviously a week before Vegas, you kind of have to, right? Right, guys.
I'm slightly jealous. I am slightly jealous I can't go to Vegas. Because
I know, me too.
everything seems to be like it's Activity X with an open bar, Activity Y with a 4-hour open bar. I'm like, yeah, I'm not looking
open
forward to the
bars.
pings that we're going to get from people who are authorized to ping after
You see-
they've had at least 3 alcoholic beverages.
This is
At
true.
least 3, should be 5. But,
I mean, goons. Goons are definitely going to be there in force, right? I mean, it was an Eve meat that was made by a goon to start off with, so they are going to be there in force regardless, right? There's obviously an Imperium dinner, which obviously is going to be pretty awesome. But yeah, like goons not abuse an open bar. Okay.
Didn't they put a company out of business last time that happened?
Yes, they did. Hopefully the company that they don't put out of business this year is CCP, because CCP will be picking up the tab. Obviously, it won't be was it Topgolf, whatever it is that's picking up the tab. Clearly,
that 400 million that they got from the from Pearl Abyss. Yeah,
Well-
that's going to a bar tab.
the majority of it is going to be going. Like, how did we spend 2/3 of our upfront kind of sale cost just in Vegas? Like, what happened?
Booze.
Just literally
should be a
alcohol.
good one. It should be good. Even as a spectator, you'll be able to watch all the live streams of all the keynote presentations, which is always exciting because you don't know what new feature they're going to break next.
Oh, I like how you did that. Yeah, I thought you were going to say bring, but you said break. I like.
Do you know what else is broken?
Oh, there's so many things that are broken. But it's already broken. Oh, great.
It's broken, yeah. So
How is it broken? Go on.
the boss isn't spawning.
Oh, nice. So the second the 2-room site, right? You're talking about.
Either of the bosses are spawning. Yes, the Crimson
lovely.
Harvest is returning to a Halloween-themed event for the year calendar. With the main question you're probably all thinking is, yes, you will get cerebral boosters, so you can continue your crack addiction. As we're entering the 2-week period where we don't have cerebral boosters till the next event. And
Unfortunately,
it's gonna be a lot harder.
yeah, I was about to say, unfortunately, those cerebral boosters don't come in the pre put together injected form. Like you have to you have to put together the syringe and everything to go with it and stuff like that, and cook it all up and what have you.
Because you're going to have 2 event sites. There's going to be your open site, just like all the other ones before, so you can just warp a ship straight towards it. You'll be in the site, such as like the road drones things, the hunt, all those types of sites. So you can use your carriers and your super capitals in low seconds.
There we go.
So I have a feeling those are going to be the ones the goons are going to prefer, because we're going to use, obviously, Titans, because anyone who warps in a super carrier hasn't gotten the ammo. We don't use supers anymore. We're just like a full Titan alliance at this point. So
I mean,
It would
does
be
it?
very counterproductive to use a Titan. Though. That doesn't matter because you're being productive with your other Titan on your other account at the same time.
This is true, and having your 3rd Titan ready to go on the defensive fleet as well. It's like
Absolutely.
that's 3 Titans being used simultaneously, pretty much anyway.
yeah, I have a feeling goons are going to like nationalize it to the point where it's like we're gonna have 3 Titans first warp into the belt, kill all the little AI thingies, and then we're gonna drop the Oracle fleet on what is probably only going to be like 10,000 cubic meters of ore.
Well, Urandus, just like always, you're wrong there. Because
unlucky.
the sites that are going to contain the ores are the gated sites, so you can't warp your Rorquals in. You can't use Rorquals to mine. I know it's going to be distressing for Goons pilots when they realise they can't use their Rorquals.
CCP nerfing Goons once again.
Oh no, it gets a lot better. Thank you. You just reminded me. I'm actually going to pull up the stream so I can see chat if there's any questions, because I'm saying a lot of information, but I haven't seen anything in chat if anyone's asking. So it is going to be like a gated dead space site, so you can walk. You think it's up to like the battleship classes. I think you can put the mining barges through. I was testing in an Orca on the test server because you've got the drone damage bonuses to be able to kill all the rat, and then you can just mine away with Tech 2 harvest drones. Also, have you done the ping? The answer to that question is no.
I am doing the ping right now. Like, stop hassling me, bro. I mean, Jesus Christ. I'm only human.
I'm just like, we're missing at least another 100 people.
There's the ping. Okay, are you happy now?
One job, McLeod. One job.
No, two.
Can't even get that.
Three jobs. Thank you. 3 jobs. Thank you very much.
It's all under one title, so therefore it's one job.
Well, you guys are the content, like, and Urandus, you are the most beautiful content, on the show today. So.
Well, at least we got this fixed. At least we got the stream going. Done the ping. You always forget to get the ping. He does.
Wait,
I was
what?
like, I loaded it up, and I was like, only 36 people watching. Where's the ping? It's a good thing we haven't already covered a lot of the information already. We'll probably have to repeat it again for 7 people.
It's fine. It makes our life easier because we don't have to use that much content. So we just have to repeat it all the time.
Talk about something else, and then we can
it ends up
to that.
It ends up just being basically like a news cycle, like a News 24.
Just kind of bringing it back to Eve Vegas a little less on the party side, but the part that no one actually cares about Eve Vegas. What do you think CCP is maybe going to announce or detail at Vegas this year?
I think this was teased at, is it G Fleet, the German one?
Yes, G Fleet, yeah, Germany Fleet.
Is the expansion of Abyssal Space.
Oh yeah, because they're going to be allowing people to do duos and stuff like that.
It probably is going to be there, so we'll probably be hands-on with Nova. What I can expect is that we'll see the further announcement of co-op Abyssal Space.
Yep.
CCP making instances in this game. They said it would never happen.
I just want to quickly say thank you very much, Keyman the Great. Subbing for 3 months. Thank you very much.
Well, the announcement for co-op Abyssal was at the G Fleet, and I think he said something about so the future of Abyss space, just like PvP. I mean, the future. I don't know if he slipped that out on purpose or accidental, but we're expecting to see PvP in the Abyss as well.
I'm trying to find the Reddit page on it, so don't worry. You keep chatting about it. It's fine. I'll see if I can find it first. I'll see if I can find it before you finish doing it. But there'll be a bitch about it.
So for those who don't know about the co-op Abyss, they're rebalancing and restructuring. Well, they're not rebalancing. They're creating effectively a second version of the Abyss space with the tables, the sites, everything, where you and 2 of your best friends or your best multi-boxing friends come along and do a site in frigates.
You have to speak more.
I was expecting I'm expecting someone else to chip in. Like, I can't just carry the team. Urandus is just sitting there going,
Just going, come on, motherfucker, work for it.
what if you don't have friends? Well, just
If you don't have friends, then you can join Karma Fleet and get 40,000 best friends in 2 seconds.
Beautiful.
Hashtag AMOC is recruiting.
Yeah.
if you don't have friends, you'll still be able to do the Abyss. This is effectively, you get your item, your key, and when you fire it up, you say, right, do I want to go in solo, have the cruiser version, or do I want to open up a fleet option and go in with my buddies?
This kind of
With-
sounds like CCP is adding like solo and group dungeons now at this point. Like any I don't want to say sandbox, like a theme park MMO now. Because as far as I'm aware, you can use these things. Because I don't play Eve anymore. Obviously, I'm in school. But I mean, can't you just like activate the filaments you need and get into the abyssal dead space like anywhere? You don't need to be in a specific security system.
No,
yeah,
you
you
don't
can
need to.
activate them from anywhere as long as you're not within 1,000 kilometers of a structure or an item or something like that.
Yeah, and it's basically to stop people from, like, you know, starting them inside of, like, weapons ranges of citadels and stuff like that. Because that'll be a little bit OP, you know?
Kick why not?
I think we're done on the G Fleet stuff. I found a video for it and everything. God damn it.
What are you playing in the background? I'm concerned.
Playing in the back.
Abyssal Dead Space, the future.
Yeah. It was the G Fleet stuff, dude. Like, come on.
I never didn't watch any of the G Fleet coverage because I've been busy with life.
What's also interesting is they're going to be, well, with this instant stuff, they're looking at expanding that into the PvP element as well. So we should see some announcement, hopefully, about that at eVegas, which I can expect. But they're effectively expanding, which is good. What I like them that they're going into the frigates, that you can take 3 frigates in. That reduces the trying to think, like the requirements to get in. It's much easier for you to find 2 frigate friends and to build up the expensive blingy cruisers to go in for the higher level stuff, especially on alpha accounts. You'll be able to fly. You're able to fly the best frigate you can fly on an alpha account is obviously a lot better than the best cruiser you can fly on an alpha account, on how close you can to get to the max skills. Because all the pirate and the faction frigates will be allowed, as well as the
Aw,
GT
shit.
ones.
Well, there'll be people running, like, basically almost burner setups in those. I imagine that'll be the case.
Specialized mission setup.
Or just
No.
using, Tristans and Tristans.
And Tristans.
More Tristans.
All the Tristans.
Hull tanking, local repping Tristans with drones, and yeah.
Worms
God
might
damn.
be good. And the Trigavian frigates themselves, because they got the remote reps bonuses.
Spider tanking.
Yeah,
Spider tanking
I do
Demovix.
I do imagine the Worms will be very good at this.
Worms and just the spider tanking ship's ability just to go transport reps around and just prime your DPS on a target and then fling out your drones towards whatever you want to hit. Invest now in Worms, you heard it first. It might be a
You
good
heard it
idea,
first here,
but-
guys. We've predicted the meta of what the triple frigate setup will be.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got to, for the later higher levels, you've got to factor in remote reps and all the other stuff like that.
Damovic. Is it the Damovic? That's the crew. Is that
It's
the
begins with V, I think.
Vedmak?
Vedmak.
No, check.
Is
that-
the
no,
Vedmak
no.
the frigate?
I don't know. I don't think
I thought
so.
the Damovic was the frigate.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Damovic may be good.
It's Adamovic, yeah.
Where are the old people? Have you killed them? No, Moomin, we didn't kill them.
I have a theory.
They just went backwards in time, and we are them secretly.
I have a theory, and that is they need this weekend to kind of like be able to survive next weekend. Like, I think that's how it's going to work. Like, the people who aren't here are the people who are going to Vegas. So that I think they need this weekend to kind of get themselves ready to actually literally physically survive next weekend. Which, you know, I hope that is the case, that they survive. Not wanting to colour next weekend or anything like that. Oh, Jesus.
Yes, Moomin, we know that your legal age is old squared. You don't need to advertise that to the world.
That's
Well, I
interesting.
was
So-
actually wondering whether Moomin wanted to come on because he penned a really nice, really decent
But we
article
have
about like
such
what
a
was been
young,
going on.
Like, we have such a young host set today. Do we really want to throw old squared into that into that average?
Well, we need someone who actually really properly knows what's been, and can really do a good job of what's been going on actually in Eve, like over the past week and a bit. Because that'd be really, really good. And I think Moomin would be really fucking awesome at that. But that depends entirely on whether he wants to come on.
You have a good point. Moomin
depends-
does have a very silky voice. Moomin.
I love hearing from him, and I'm sure everyone else does too. So it depends entirely on, like, you know, I mean, I'm sure he has the address for our Discord. But you know, if he wants to come on, it would be really cool. If you don't, then that's cool. We can just carry on. We'll stumble about as to like what's been going on in Eve over the week, and then point people to you know, your post regardless anyway. So Eric is actually alive. Okay, fair enough. I didn't realize he
I
was
don't
alive.
appreciate Eric being alive and not being on show. Get out.
Well, apparently he's got family stuff that he needs to do, so he's probably doing it. He's probably writing that from you know, from the car, or you know, from a, you know, random location IRL. But Moomin's here. Hey, Moomin.
Hi,
Good
Moomin.
day, everyone. How are you doing?
Ah, that's the voice. That's the sexy voice we're looking for.
Now, I don't want to be accused of grooming anyone. Okay.
Moomin voice. Yum.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Right then, so what are you chaps on about?
Well, we were just like we wanted to kind of like, really, to be honest, I wanted to cover a little bit of Vegas stuff, but like most of the people who are going to Vegas aren't actually on the show today, so like trying to figure out what's actually happening in Vegas that isn't just on the you know, the Vegas mega blog, mega thread, like mega kind of post, whatever that CCP put up, like is a little bit sketchy, but I think most stuff that is like Imperium related in Vegas is probably going to be discussed as well in the fireside later on tonight. I imagine that, right?
The Imperium's doing its own thing, isn't it? Like predominantly. I think that some of the chaps might be like doing some of it, but I seem to remember the night out is Sadus has been busy organising all of that sort of stuff, and it's normally a really, really good event, but only if you're within the Imperium, obviously.
Yeah. You know, it's a cool kids club, right?
That's all right. We don't want no dirty, stinking puppies turning up.
Moomin, would you
ruining
say
our
that
ability.
it's-
Ruining our ability to you know, basically seriously abuse what is it, like the bars and clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The open bars and clubs and stuff.
Well, open bars, and then obviously they have the SWAT kind of teams turn up later on as well, occasionally to events.
Yeah, I would like to say, like, on account of the fact that you guys did actually, I think I heard it correctly, but you guys actually put a bar out of business from last year.
It wouldn't surprise me. I must confess, it's like, you know, although part of me would like to go to Wii Vegas, the other part of me doesn't want to allow the TSA to actually have a free fiddle of my front bottom.
I thought you meant just like, I've watched far too many Hangover films, and it's very likely with the company. But, you know,
So are we taking bets then on whether or not we're going to put this this next bar out of business?
well, that's what I was going to say. I was, you know, it's all about open bar tabs, right? And you know, as much as you put the last kind of you know, the last business out of business that had an open bar tab for you guys, like the one bar tab that I know is open is on that Topgolf one. And unfortunately, the company that's picking up that bar tab is CCP. I kind of don't want you guys to put CCP out of business, like technically.
Goons
Well,
are
they're
actually
kind
bad for the game.
They're probably more than capable of putting themselves out of business. So I'm
Oof.
pretty sure that they don't
Ooh.
actually get any assistance from us whatsoever.
Ooh, shots fired.
The thing is, it's like $89, and I assume that's pre-tax for the 2 hours of Top Golf. I obviously will work out how much of that is actually being factored into alcohol. Like, how much is it for just normal Top Golf, and how
Yeah.
well are you at golf after an open bar?
Right, okay, you're talking about stuff that I have no idea, and it's like, you know, I hate to be like horrid, but there's this game called Eve. So what are you talking about, Eve? you lied to me to get me on here to talk about Eve.
Well, no,
Let's talk about Eve.
you had asked us what we were talking about specifically, and we hadn't gotten onto the topic of what's been going on in Eve, but we do.
Well, come on, there's been so much going on. It's like,
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, that's true. That's
you
true.
have to kind of get into that, or otherwise you'll run out of time.
Well, I mean, we wanted a little bit of a, you know, a bit of a warm up to the awesomeness that is what's going on in Eve right now. So, you know. And to be
Okay, so
fair, the
these,
North has
like,
basically been
ice-breaking.
the North's basically been cracking up and imploding, essentially, right?
Okay, well, you say that basically, so give me the details then. What's been happening in the north?
Well, I mean, you know, little birdies have been telling me that people have been resetting each other, and people have been fighting each other, and people have basically been going, this isn't basically a soft reset. This is a all-out SOV is included, you know, get fucked kind of reset. Which
Okay,
is great.
so how
And
has
that's
that
specifically
come about?
Specifically, Pandemic Horde started it, and it was down to the fact that you know, they were a bit pissy about the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy made a secret deal that became not so secret with Imperium.
Okay, and
That's
I seem to
most of
remember
what
that-
I know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like the deal itself was for 40 faction Fortizars, and GOTG would get 6 months reprieve from the bulk of the Imperium forces, and the Northern Allies, which include NC Dot, PL, PH, and, you know, even CO2, I guess, arguably, I don't know. But they were going to get a 1 month reprieve. Yes, Fort Dragon. It's like, I do like that name.
Yeah, it's pretty
But it
good.
was a good deal, wasn't it? I mean, it's like, let's be honest about it. It's like, I
was.
thought it was a great deal, to be honest with you.
I think it could have been a little
Not for
bit.
me.
I think it like. I mean, I guess if it's meant to be a secret deal, the more people that you bring in to discuss it, the more likely it's likely to be leaked, kind of thing.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, it
wasn't
didn't come
leaked.
from our kind of like side. It wasn't leaked from our side. Like I was just kind of saying, like, you know, it could have been, you know, more of the Imperium, or the subsections of Imperium could have been, you know, like brought in on the deal.
Isn't that
Would have been
surprising, though? The fact that, given the size of the Imperium, that we are able to keep our mouths shut, whereas the smaller entities seem incapable of doing such a thing.
It's almost like the people who potentially could have done that decided to leave the Imperium at some particular point, you know, when Imperium wasn't doing that great. And there's someone fucking in the... Sorry about that. But yeah,
That's okay. I know what it's like to live in the poor area.
Yeah, I know. Like, I just need to go and shoot somebody with a paintball pistol in a minute.
So, I mean, you know, just to kind of recap again on that, like, deal. So, I mean, Salt Dragon's obviously done the deal for like 44 Desires. It was supposed to all be like, you know, on the quiet. I believe it was someone in, was it Slice KOS? No,
I think
KO.
it was Riot Rick named
Oh,
Jonathan
right.
Wayne.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm
Effectively,
Riot Rick, for those who don't know, goes under the name of Alpha Empire on Reddit. And, I have to say that his ability to kind of perceive events in a particular light is actually really quite incredible. Oh, apparently it wasn't Rick,
Well,
but
it
anyway.
could have been, it could not have been. Like it's up in the air, but we're going to basically say, just for the hell of it, that it's going to be Riot Rick today.
Yeah, so
Yes.
KOS, that's Chaos Theory, isn't it? Those are the ones that I believe left, and I think it was one of the chaps that was, in charge of a corp, one of the directors there, actually let the news slip. Obviously, personally, I'm very disappointed that in the deal, they didn't actually get GOTG to commit to actually calling the Casino War by its correct name, the Casino War.
The true loss of this deal.
Absolutely, and credit to that name actually goes to Noisy Gamer,
who isn't a
because
goon,
they came up
FYI.
with it. Yeah,
Who isn't a
absolutely.
goon?
They were
That's-
independent, impartial. It was a great name that coined the events at the time.
Like we should, if like, the thing is, right? People like the other kind of political side of Eve, from Imperium, are so adamant that like the Casino War is like an imperial name. Like it's just ridiculous. We should literally just start pushing the most ridiculous sort of name that like that the Imperium actually sort of named it. Like just to slight them, if anything.
So this war should be called the war
The War of Solventless Aggression. The War of Solventless Aggression.
Imperial.
Well, no,
Imperial
it's sort of
Strikes
like, I
Back.
actually, because I think that the way that people generally tend to name these wars, and I mean, obviously being English, we're used to things like the 100 Years' War. So
Yeah.
when people kind of like talk of a war and it's just like a span of a few months or at most, I feel that they're actually doing a disservice to war fundamentally. The way that I've been phrasing this is it's actually still the Casino War, but we have just done the Big Bill campaign.
Ah.
So do you know who Big Bill is, by the way?
I don't, but you're welcome
Big
to
Bill the
educate
Boss.
me.
You have no idea about Sky Marshal Big Bill the Boss.
I don't know who Big Bill the Boss is.
Okay, well, Big
I
Bill
am
the Boss-
uneducated. Remember this.
Evidently. Big Bill the Boss is a Sky Marshal within the Imperium that decided to do pretty well much a one-man deployment because he couldn't be bothered to move the carriers back from when we did a deployment last year. So he just stayed up in the area and he started like doing things, and then he got in touch with a few kind of other Sikhs that shouldn't be named. And he just went and said, I'm having a great time up here. You should really come up as well. And so they did. We kind of like, had a few Sikh deployments up there. Things were going good. Pandemic Legion then obviously were having their little spat with the Legacy, of which is led by a Test. And then it ended up being a case of Pandemic Legion moved their super capital forces down to the south. And at the point that they did, obviously Big Bill kind of like saw his opportunity to actually strike into the heart of the north and just kind of create damage because, we have no interest in living in the north whatsoever.
Oh fuck no.
Because, Delve is obviously, well, it's heaven. It's heaven in New Eden. So why on earth would we want to leave like the best space in the game to go and live in some crappy place called Declan?
People thought that the grass wasn't greener on the other side when we were in Delve. There were a few people who knew differently, and then when situations occurred that basically, expedited the Imperium to go to Delve, like we found that it was actually a lot greener on the other side.
So, Moomin, is the spring of 2016 part of the Casino War? Is that the Kill a Flea campaign, and this is the Big Bill campaign?
Well, I don't know. I'm not particularly good with the names, and people keep like changing their minds about stuff. But I just look at all of this over the last couple of months or so as being the Big Bill campaign, and realistically, the kind of the initial party was obviously Big Bill, and then it was also a couple of SIGs from the Imperium, and then it just snowballed from there. Given the fact that PanFam, and when I talk about PanFam, it's obviously NC Dot and Pandemic Legion as being the elite elements within that organization. But I tend to like, I'd even put like Winter Coalition, the Holy Rental Empire, GOTG or Dead Coalition, a coalition as they call themselves nowadays. I put them all under that kind of umbrella of like PanFam, because basically PanFam say like do stuff and these guys go and do it. So, as far as I'm concerned,
It's like an
that's as good
extended. It's like an extended sort of like Italian mafia kind of family, right? It's like basically sort of, the head like PL and NC basically say go do this stuff, and like the extended family go and do it.
Well, if you want to use that analogy, then that's completely up to you. I'm not sure I'd choose that. I'd choose something involving clowns, possibly.
Well, yeah, it may be sexing it up a little bit too much, like in that regard, but
probably a bit too much, yeah. So as a result of that, obviously we moved our like capital fleet, the armor capital fleet, up into the north. We deployed the Keepstar and 6RQ. All of that went like swimmingly, and I think it was like quite surprising for PanFam as a whole how much that we actually did bring, and the fact that we were also at that time getting support from Test, because Test knew only too well what was happening on their own borders down in the south. And despite Winter Coalition and HRE, which was like led by Triumvirate, I think it was, they were saying we are the plucky under guys kind of stuff, and it was just like sheer theatre and nonsense. It was something that Doom Chinchilla was obviously very vocal in his disdain for Test, and he said that he was going to basically make Test put up or shut up.
I mean, all of his Twitter posts were just fucking gold. Like they were just there were huge mountains of salt. Like there is just like, well, actually, it was more than mountains of salt. They were like mountain ranges of salt that were going on Reddit, like with
Doom Chinchilla. It's very interesting to like see Doom Chinchilla potentially kind of like change how vocal he is, or at least how he expresses his disdain, given the fact that CCP have introduced new language into the EULA, which means that if anyone is like seen to be too bad on any kind of like social media like platform, then CCP like will ban them. That's it.
So with that, I think it's more that before that, if it was the idea of you can only get banned if it's something in game. This change was effectively, as you mentioned, with GigX. Everyone knew GigX was ban evading. The only problem is they had to find a way to prove it, and they couldn't say, well, here's a fleet recording of him leading a fleet. Here's the disc. Here's all the leaks. Here's all the screenshots. And then when they kicked him, banned him again, banned some extra accounts actually. They then changed that again so they can effectively go to that evidence almost like a third umpire type of thing, like the eye in the sky type of the thing, to go, I think this is GigX, eye in the sky. Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, it's like it's an interesting one, given the fact that there was obviously a huge amount of outrage about the Mittani, peace be unto him, that when he got banned, and it was a temporary ban that he got back in the day for wearing a wizard hat and saying a few stupid things. Mittani, he ate that ban. He kind of like dealt with it. He apologized. He sorted it out with the other guy, and the issue was kind of like done. There we go. But the bit that I find interesting is all of those people that were obviously just like clamoring to get Matani banned ever since. They have actually just been supporting a guy that was perma-banned by CCP. Because let's be honest about it, it's like with CO2, the way that they've been bouncing around up north. Okay, well, it's like GOTG, Pandemic Horde. Amusingly, they actually CO2 moving over into bot space very, very temporarily led to the splitting up of FAFA from NC Dot, and FAFA has been a long-standing ally. But Lady Scarlet then turned up on Reddit and went and said, we've come to a juncture where we've got different directions, all of that sort of nonsense, and it's an amicable kind of separation of ways. I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
Let's just put it this way. Like, I highly doubt that even though Giggs has been banned, like, he probably is still in some way, negotiating shit for CO2, and I imagine. Suddenly CO2 go into bot space and FAFA goes, nah, fuck this, I'm out. Like, that definitely isn't in any way connected, is it? By any chance, is it, Moomin?
Well, there again, it's like, some people are being remarkably tight-lipped about some of those events, and who knows, in time is like the story might actually like come out, because sometimes that's the case. Is like you have events that happen, and then 6 months down the line you'll actually work out what the hell happened. But the bit that I find interesting is obviously CO2 were being supported by the likes of NC Dot, GOTG, Pandemic Horde now currently. So it seems a bit interesting to me to those people who are actually trying to hold the higher moral ground historically are now actually not holding any moral ground whatsoever.
Are they holding any ground,
Well,
literally or physically?
Yeah, I mean, up in the audience, Bar's basically saying like, that Faithful was potentially kicked out by Scarlet due to the fact that they allowed CO2 to into bot space. Like, I'd be a little bit like, I mean, that may be the case, that might not be the case. I don't know. Like, I'd imagine it. Like, if Lady Scarlet like hated CO2 as much as she does. Like,
no,
having them right next to them.
I don't even think it's anything to do with that. I almost kind of assure you that it's all to do with the rental stuff. Because,
okay.
I'd already moved over my my kind of like scouting eyes into like bot space where CO2 were based. Simply because as far as I was concerned, hey, look, 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only do we get to kind of like annihilate PanFam income, but we also get to kill CO2 again. It's like, good times. Absolutely. So I would say that Lady Scarlet obviously would have got like pushback from the actual customers of Bot, who went and said, hold on a second, it's like, here we are, we're paying you a lot of ISK, and yet you're dumping this problem right in our lap? Are you crazy? It's like, we need to go and rent from somewhere else. And there we go. So I think that it's actually Lady Scarlet defending the renter income for PanFam as a whole, which is not insignificant. So, you only need to look at the number of systems that are available for renting, and it's quite an impressive number. That's a lot of ISK all tied up there. So anyway, back onto that. Obviously, we then kind of had Pandemic Horde, who were, kind of outraged at, how could Salt Dragon possibly give us breathing space to sort ourselves out? Let's go and attack like Salt Dragon. It's like, sorry, Fort Dragon.
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah. And it's
I
just,
mean,
it's
it's
just,
like it is
it's
a
been
comedy
a.
of errors. I mean, have you said, McLeod, that you actually read the article that I did recently?
I skimmed it.
I
To be
can't say I
completely
blamed
honest,
you.
like to
I
be
did that
completely
when I
honest,
wrote it.
skim wrote it. That's interesting.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'd like teach me how to do that because I would love to know that technique. But yeah,
Yeah, so at the end of that piece, because obviously Elise has been missing in action as far as I'm concerned from his normal morale posts that he used to do back in the Casino War when we were about. And so I actually tried to do a little bit of a morale post there for Pandemic Legion and PanFam as a whole. And one of the bits in there that I say is like, drop the idea of like renting because it's a disservice to yourselves and also to the game, because these people are occupying like space that could be occupied by people that are actually willing to engage in actually having some fun and content within the game.
yeah, it was good. It was very good. Yeah.
Well, Pandemic Horde will have a chance for some content because a couple of hours ago, Test Alliance Please Ignore declared war on Pandemic Horde.
Oh, look at you racing ahead of everything at the moment. There was loads that's happened in between.
I'm just saying we do have only 37 minutes till the fireside. So
Yeah, that's fine, but we can always listen to the recording of the fireside, obviously. There's no need to do that.
Just putting it out there.
Okay, so is in all of that, you've got Pandemic Horde that have declared hostile intent towards GOTG. It's very interesting that Black Legion are cozying up towards like Pandemic Horde, and Elo Knight is doing fleets for Pandemic Horde. And I'm also loving as well how like Pandemic Horde are like trying to push that, oh, we're just a newbie alliance. How dare people attack the newbies?
I'm sorry, but when you have multiple people in Titans and Supers, like, I mean, even if it's just like, I mean, I understand like the few Titans for like bridging, that kind of thing, but when you have like line members who are in Titans and stuff like that, you can't consider yourself a newbie organization anymore. I'm sorry, you just can't.
It's like you can be newbie friendly.
Yeah, you can be
there
newbie
is
friendly,
nothing wrong
totally.
with like qualifying that.
Yeah.
But to describe yourself fundamentally as a newbie organization is just
It's
a
bullshit.
false statement.
It's complete bullshit.
Oh no, I was being generous there. It's a false statement.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we've got that, and then we had kind of like over the last few days, we've had a little bit of a rush on the reset situation. Now, is like historically, PanFam does this kind of gig of where they kind of like do resets and they go, oh look at our standings, we've all reset each other, and we're all going to have like fun times and stuff like that. It was also particularly interesting is there was an interview recently with Killer B, and he was expressing his own personal opinions about how some of the stuff went in the north, and it was particularly interesting to say that to see that he was describing as working with CO2 as being problematical at best.
I imagine that is very, very light words from what it actually was.
Well, it's like it's like I have to confess, I kind of quite like Killer because he's
pretty straight. He's pretty straight.
Well,
on
the
stuff,
thing
though.
is, he's taken his lumps and he's got a few recently. But he still went on to the meat show. He kind of like did all of those sorts of things. And it's a case of like I'd see Killer as actually being one of the more interesting characters out of the PanFam as a whole. His new guard, as far as I'm concerned, and he wants to do stuff and have fun in the game. Whereas I think that there's a lot of leadership within PanFam for whatever reasons, and I would not want to cast aspersions upon them, but they are very much in favour of maintaining a kind of status quo. And if you looked at the map, I mean, literally, you could go from the 11 o'clock position, like right the way around to like 5 o'clock, and it's owned by, in essence, very few entities, controlling entities, and a vast amount of that is rented. And of particular note as well is the number of systems and regions is significantly denser on the eastern side of the map than it is on the west.
Oh yeah. Most.
So we've seen all of those kind of like like elements happening. There's been the resets. It's going back into this kind of like this phase of like, oh well, we're not blue to anyone, so we're just a strong independent alliance. And it's just nonsense. It's stuff that has served PanFam well historically because it's got them out of trouble. But I'm not sure that it's necessarily going to work this time because, obviously the Imperium is very, very used to the kind of tactics employed by PanFam. And I would say that Test are equally aware of some of the stuff that PanFam get up to. And leading on to the Test and high-sec war side of things, well, it's, Test high-sec war against a pandemic horde. Could be interesting. There has been talk about perimeter. Obviously, there are shell organizations involved as well, such as with the I Choose You citadels that are in perimeter. As far as I'm concerned, all of them should be burnt down. There we go.
Just burn them to a crisp. Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like, I know that there were some chaps who's like 2 months to them felt like a long war to have, and obviously we did have some really significant battles in there. So we had the 6 RCQ, which is obviously, even moving all of the Imperium is like a massive undertaking. That
totally.
involves like a huge amount of work from many, many people. Shout out to GSOL. And you're also looking at other kind of pivotal battles such as UALX, where Pandemic Legion won so hard that they didn't log in for a week. We had X47, and then obviously the other kind of like keep stars in the north. I mean, it's like, we did something like about 10, and 4 of those were in one day. I mean, it's like, who has even could consider doing that? That's an amazing thing to do.
Completely insane. Yeah. Like and like very, very recently, like I don't know, I kind of heard a little bit about this. I'm not sure whether it was true, whether it was just rumor, or whether it's just rumor at the moment and things haven't happened enough yet for it to actually be considered true or not. But I heard that there was talk about like some corps and stuff like that from PL starting to pack their bags in some way, shape, or form, or at least consolidate or move, or potentially think about moving somewhere. I don't know.
Okay, so it's like, if we're kind of like honest about this at the moment, if you were in PL, okay, and you'd been there for years and you'd kind of like, been conditioned realistically to have this expectation about you being elite, how would you feel about it? Because I mean, let's be honest here, is BTAC-R was a loss. UALX, okay, you can call it a draw, I think, maybe at best. 6 RCQ, that was our stager, but PL were down light south. But thereafter, the X47 like fights, the DTAC-W fights, and DO6, where are PL? It's like they've had back-to-back losses now in Titan fights. What is the point in being in PL?
It's true. It's very true. Like the point of being in PL, the point of being in PL was, you were the big dog in terms of super caps and titans and stuff.
Yeah, so and given the fact that even smaller entities, as Killer rightly kind of like pointed out in his interview, is something that was like about 800-900 Titans in total in some of those fights, which is an insane amount. Is like when you think about it. So given the fact that PL doesn't necessarily offer, let's be honest about it, there are SIGs within goons that aren't necessarily as elitist, but I would say that they're equally as capable as anything within PL. I would even go so far as to say that PL's suffered a significant brain drain, over the last few years. Who is the talent? Where is the talent that's going to come from there? And it's like, who is going to risk their kill boards, okay, to suffer the wrath potentially of the PL leadership should things go awry? Who wants to do that?
They're all playing World of Warcraft or Siege, or trying to get you to come to their EVE Online skateboarding event or snowboarding event.
Well, whatever. If they want to like play other games and all that sort of stuff, then that's fine. But as I finished off in my piece, when I was doing that morale post for PanFam as a whole, is if you quit EVE over this defeat, then that means that you quit because you were beaten by the goons. And do you really want that to be your legacy?
Exactly. That's
Excellent.
exactly the thing.
Asked by the most beautiful voice. So poetic.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Oh yeah. And the thing is, one of the things that I put in chat actually was the fact that the interesting thing is, that you can say that that skill injectors have kind of really helped in getting people into Titans and getting their ults into Titans like a hell of a lot faster than previously, than years past, right? I mean,
well, you kind of like say that, but it's like character bazaar was always a thing. So
I know.
There to actually kind of like buy your way into actually owning that type of stuff. I think that the injectors are nice because it means that you're not having to necessarily wait for the perfect character to come along on the bazaar and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit more like flexibility, and also it acts as a kind of ISK sync as well. But the main thing that I always recommend to the newbies that obviously join the Imperium, I always maintain is like EVE is a marathon and not a sprint. So if you sprint through it all within a couple of months and you get into a Titan, then you're missing out on a huge amount. It's like, it's nicer, I think, for your own personal story that you tell in EVE to actually just take it easy, to enjoy all the different elements. Is like learn how to fly frigates, learn how to fly destroyers, cruisers, work your way through it, because that knowledge is invaluable when you actually kind of get to larger ships as well. So why not kind of learn it as you go?
It is true, and I know from personal experience that like I've had a few friends who have done the whole like, oh, I need to be in a super, so I'm going to grind like crazy to get into a super. And then when they get into a super, it's just a case of like, they've achieved their goal, but they never really had fun with the experience up to that goal because it was all just grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding. And this was before Citadel, so you got yourself into a super or a Titan, and it was basically your coffin, right? And they just didn't like the game when they were stuck inside of a super, and they just ended up being really disheartened and decided not to play the game anymore. It's like it's a real shame, but it's one of those things. Like don't sprint for stuff. Like it is a marathon, as you say, Moomin.
Yeah, and I mean, just imagine. I mean, obviously we'll kind of like 2 years plus 2.5 years on from the start of the Casino War, and if you look back to that time period when there was an introduction to a whole bunch of like changes that came into place with regards to Fuzzy Sov and all of those like sorts of things, but you had the super fast ships. It's like 6 kilometers per second, able to actually intosis from like 200 plus kilometers away, and a whole bunch of other like kind of like nonsense, and no one was necessarily prepared for it. Imagine if those changes that have happened since had not come into play, and how the North would have fared this time around. Because I think that is like, okay, we did a little bit of damage up there, but I think that if they were actually playing under the same kind of like conditions that we were back then, we would have absolutely rolled them probably in about like 2 weeks. Yet when you actually look at what we did in the Casino War, we lasted, a good kind of like 8 months, I think, under that kind of like those conditions. So I look at it as testament to like how we actually did. And the other side, they've like, admitted as well quite openly that the Imperium, the level of organization and how we actually applied our forces in the North, it's hard to argue that it wasn't very, very effective.
Yeah.
The main big thing changes the change to Sinosaurus jammers in the
Oh
winter
my God.
expansion.
Don't get me going about that.
If those jammers come into effect, the war would have changed a lot more. CO2 blew up the majority of their own jammers after they became incapacitated, so they could drop a new one down. They wouldn't be able to do that with the Upwell if it takes the 24 hours to online to anchor, because you can switch it on and off like a light switch. If you're taking 24 hours to online the thing, that's gonna
that kind of like comes into that speculative side of things, because I have to confess is like, when people start talking about the plan changes and bits and pieces like that, there's plenty of people that are like willing to throw in their opinions there. Me personally, I just wait until it actually gets to the live server, because it's only when it's on the actual live server that I can actually, it affects me as a person. We've got the CSM, and despite people like saying, oh, well, the CSM is just full of goons and nullsec people, yeah, it is. But the thing is, those people I still believe actually do have the health of the game as a very core interest. So
Yeah.
although he's like, Aris will even kind of like claim to like, have his own kind of like ideals about certain things, he still likes playing the game. So
Yeah,
if he
I mean,
kills the
if it was,
game goes.
yeah, I mean, if it was truly a nullsec goon kind of centric CSM, like you wouldn't have that situation where when they went into the summit, like their number one kind of thing that they wanted to discuss with CCP was Wardex. Like you wouldn't get that if the majority of the people on the CSM were purely nullsec focused. Like they're there.
Oh, completely agreed. I mean, it's like, having pretty well much always lived in Null, apart from a little stint when I was learning to like play the game where I kind of lived in HiSec in Serenos. It's like Wardex have never affected me, because one, I hardly spend any time in like HiSec, and even when I do, I know how to deal with it. So it's a non-issue.
The thing is, one thing to blame for that was some of the Northern Alliance's view for the CSM was don't fucking vote. Boycott it. And then they went crying saying, oh, the CSM is all goons. You can't say we're going to boycott, we're not going to vote, fuck them all, and then go on to then complain to say, actually, hang on a minute, we didn't get a voice. We didn't get a voice in because we didn't have the unity. It's like wormholers complaining about being collateral damage. They lost their main wormhole member, and they haven't put one up since.
Yeah, but it's like, there again, if you look at the players within like wormholes, you look at the players within Null Loser, still pale in significance in comparison to the population of like HiSec. Okay, yeah. So it is a case of sort of like the thing that they're like lacking is the organization, and the one thing that is like the Imperium as a whole has been really, really good at is being able to organise and motivate people to like do stuff. When I voted, it's like whenever I vote, I just vote the way that I'm told because that's how democracy works in the Imperium.
My only issue with the whole kind of like voting how I'm told is if all of the initiative voted exactly how the Imperium ballot told them to, we probably wouldn't have got Brysk on. But then again, Brysk did an internal kind of exit poll on like the amount of people in the initiative who voted him first, and it was definitely not like, it was probably half to 2/3 of the like 1,000 first votes that he needed. So he got a lot of first person votes like from other places, which is actually really super impressive.
Well, there again is like he is relatively visible in sort of like obviously he has an ability to actually engage with the public as a whole, as he has demonstrated on Reddit on numerous occasions, and also like other shows as well. So yeah, he's obviously a relatively natural candidate for like being able to do that. It's just a shame that he's a really, really, really shitty Ragnarok pilot.
Yeah, I was wondering if we were going to get to that.
Well, we can if you want.
Well, there's not much to say. There's not much to say. Someone at one point said, like, over the course of like all the conversations with faxes and all that kind of thing, that like if you have faxes, then your Titans and Supers are completely safe. Well, it is to an extent, but you can't drop like sub double digits of faxes to save a whole bunch of Supers when you have 50 dreads sitting there. Like, it doesn't work. Like, to a degree, you have to scale the amount of faxes to the amount of Supers that you're dropping, and also to the amount of like dreads that are going to be on field. It just ended up being a case of.
Who was the FC in charge of that gig then, McLeod?
I wasn't actually sure because I wasn't around. Like, I turned my Discord on like 3, maybe 4 hours after the situation actually occurred, and I saw all the pings and I was like, oh, okay, so people, like, let's just put it this way, the original FC got superseded by some additional FCs when shit really hit the fan. So it's basically just a situation where Initiative got a little bit overconfident in the area that that we were kind of operating in, because it's Syndicate and we kind of feel like it's weird, but we have an affinity with like the Syndicate area. We kind of feel like we know the space so much and have lived in the space so much that it's like our home. Like it's like it's our second home to Curse, I think. Like the old level
breeds contempt,
and and it's complacency. It was just complacency, and it was just like, oh, we can do what we want kind of thing because Syndicate's our space. Like that's how it felt.
It's like I'm kind of interested because it's like the Initiative have always been a very kind of like free spirit within the Imperium, and it's like Sister Bliss says, okay, well, I'm going off and do that now. It's like historically, from what I can see, Mittens goes, yeah, sure, whatever, dude, have fun, give us a shout if you need us. That's kind of how it feels.
Exactly.
So with that in mind,
we lost
Sister
some.
Bliss have any intentions with regards to it was Siege Green and Shoot First, wasn't it? Yeah.
I imagine sort of subsequent operations in Syndicate are going to be thought of a hell of a lot more in a lot more detail, and the moving pieces on the chessboard are going to be thought of in a lot more of a serious thought and serious consideration. Considering it wasn't just like one group kind of going, oh crap, they've dropped Supers, let's quick bat phone people. Like, it was actually a trap. They had planned it, with a whole bunch of people from the start anyway. So it was a trap set up. But like, now we know that all of those people are in at least to the point where they're talking and coordinating. So
And in answer to Noisy's question, Initiative is actually an alliance, which is a member of the coalition, which is the Imperium. There's always been a very kind of a free spirit of an alliance, and they've always gone out and pushed themselves and done some really, really interesting things. Is like Pando. I like Pando. Flown with him a few times, and that's kind of cool. And there are some other nice chaps over in Initiative as well.
Yeah, there's some really cool dudes in there. Anyway, it is 1:15. We have gone on probably about 15 minutes longer than we normally tend to. And considering that there's going to be
more to cover.
I know that there's so much more to cover. But unfortunately we're kind of out of time. We're kind of 15 minutes over time anyway. But I kind of feel like we should at least let the audience have a 15-minute break before the start of the fireside,
you
right?
Of say these things, but it's sort of it's at this time that I am inclined to think that of the things that were said about the Imperium as a whole, the fact that goons only crab, goons never commit, goons have no stamina. I think that you three are actually demonstrating that at least one of those is actually true.
No.
That we don't do anything?
Wait, what? I'm just saying people might like the luxury of actually going to a proper toilet rather than using a bottle before the fireside. That's all I'm thinking.
Noisy, no, because unlike other places, is within the Imperium.
Noisy's just pulling the chain, bro.
Yeah, I know he is, but he's I have to let the other 102 people know that that it's fake news, Noisy, and you know it.
Yeah. It's fake. Yeah, it's fake news, Noisy, and so is your casino war thing.
Right, okay, I'm going to shut up now. Anyway, thank you very much for having me on, chaps. You have a great one and take care.
Take care, dude.
Thank you for talking most of the time.
And we're gonna. Sorry, what?
I imagine we can have a part 2 to catch up.
We could do a part two. I'm not entirely certain how much of a show that we're going to have next week. I'm going to talk to Eric about that, because I imagine he's going to be in Vegas, and there's going to be a bunch of people who are going to be in Vegas. So it depends entirely on what's going to happen, and But we might have a show, we might not. I'll see what I can do with letting people know about whether we're going to have a show or not. Other than that, there's the fireside, which I believe is going to be in about 10 to 15 minutes. Obviously there's a 5-minute kind of, getting people into the room sort of thing. And then there's obviously the meta show that's later on. And then tomorrow there is Talking in Stations. And then next weekend, it's Vegas. And special announcement wise, Talking in Stations is doing something like IRL in Vegas. More info about that is tomorrow. Open Comms is going to be on a Thursday, not on a Friday. It's going to be on a Thursday night, so guys, remember that. And obviously, we are going to do I think we actually are going to do a Talking in Stations sort of semi from Vegas, and that's going to be, I believe that's actually going to be hosted on CCP's stream. So there's all of that. That's a massive pile of information to you guys. Anyway, Urandus, Falahon, do you guys have any last parting words?
Thank you for coming on, Moomin.
You're welcome, dear. Always a pleasure and never a chore.
We got a lot of things coming up in the coming week with that more operation, so we can maybe able to mash that in with.
You're breaking up somewhat.
Am I?
Yeah, you are. Either that, or you're not really pushing your push to talk down.
I was supposed to use talk.
I don't know, dude.
Push to Talk, the only
we
show
go.
on Imperium News that actively encourages you to use open comms.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I have to use push to talk, because if I don't use push to talk, then like everybody gets all the sound from like fucking the street, you know, behind me kind of thing. So
I was saying we could probably have part 2 of the story with hopefully some of the action that's going to be developing over the next week with the war declaration from Test and anything that might come out of Fireside, as well as we will be a couple of days off the Crimson Hunt.
yeah.
Crimson Hunt event. So we're going to tell you about how to get all those tasty new skins. And it will probably still be broken on Sissy, but what are you going to do?
What are you gonna do? Complain? Pfft, nah. You know.
I was
And
actually surprised that it was on Sissy to start off with, because normally they ignore it and not put any testing out.
yeah, true. Anyway, Moomin, do you have any shout outs that you want anybody to shout out, or any group to shout out?
Yeah,
At all?
well, quite simply to everyone within the Imperium for an absolutely amazing campaign that we've done. And I'd also like to wish Test good luck in their efforts with their high-tech endeavours. And congratulations to them as well for winning against Winter Coalition and the Holy Rental Empire. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, that's a fucking good point. And with that, guys, we'll say goodbye for the for this week. Hopefully, see you next week. If not, then the week after. But you know, have a good time, and yeah, have a good weekend, guys.
Catch you later.